Hello everyone, welcome to fide chess championship group in Facebook. My name is Vishwanath and I'm going to show you a game played between Vishwanathan Anand and Magnus Carlsen played in Nijingpil Spring Tournament 2010. Okay, first of all, we could give a great applause for the Mr. Harish Kumar for his contribution on this group and a great work done by him in the chess wheel. So this video is simply to promote this group and also to give good ideas for the players who are really learning how to improve their game. Okay, here Anand is white and Carlsen is black. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop B5, A6. This is Rilo page. We have discussed this position many of times in my videos, and you can find the right way of countering or Rilo page or any other variations. Okay, after A6, Bishop A4. Okay, I will just analyze this video for one more time so that those who really want to know why Rilo pages are being played and the ideas behind. Okay, if you capture bishop into c6, black will simply capture d2, and you cannot grab this pawn because queen d4, and you can capture attacking the knight on e5 and pawn on e4. You can simply grab the pawn, and for this double pawn, black will have a compensation for this double bishop. So remember, if you play a move like bishop c5 later, white will simply tries to counter with bishop e3. If you get exchanged with this bishop on e3 with the bishop on c5, black really don't have good chances. So for those who are playing this opening from the black side, just don't try to exchange your double bishop and keep your pieces active, and also you should be utilizing this open file. Don't let white creep on this kingside attack or a solid structure. Okay, so bishop will go back to bishop a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, bishop e7, rook e1. Now he's supporting this pawn on e4 so that he can capture bishop into c6 and knight into e5. So b5, bishop b3, d6. This is a key position where d6 is played by everyone. Now the idea behind d6 is simply to challenge to capture this very strong bishop on b3 by playing a move knight a5. d6, now he is supporting the pawn on e5. Now he can play knight a5 and capture the bishop. Black will simply gain advantage with this double bishop on e7 and c8. So the other threat is also he can play more like bishop g4 or even bishop e6. Still want to exchange this bishop. Even moves like bishop b7 is also played. So let us see what white will play. c3. A natural response for this move on d6 is to play c3, because immediately is threatening knight a5 or even bishop e6 is also good. So he wants to keep this bishop active. Later maybe if black played a move like d5, he can open this bishop on this long diagonal. Okay, the other idea of c3 is simply to play d4 and gain control over the center. Castles, h3. Now stopping bishop g4. White wants to simply play with d4. Okay, so here if some players might play a move like d3, where h3 is not necessary in that position, because even after bishop g4, white can play knight d2, knight f1 and knight g3, then he can play h3, because after bishop h5 and g6, the pawn on e4 is firmly supported, and he can place knight on h4 and knight on f5 and challenge the bishop on g6. So so if you commit for move h3, then white can happily play a move like d4. So it depends on the style of a player who wants to play e3, d3 or h3. Okay, here black play knight b8. This is a standard Breyer system. Now the idea is simply to play knight to d7, c6, knight b6, d5, or even moves like c5 and knight d6, b6, c6, or bishop b7. There are so many options for black for this Breyer system. It's been more popular now. Latest games, most of the players are playing this Breyer system. Even Carlson played a lot of games in this Breyer system. So there is a other variation with knight to a5. We'll see that if you play knight a5, simply bishop c2, maybe c5 is a good response, and d4. This position is good for white in view of this knight on a5 is not really doing much, and now white is ready to either open or close, and he can continue the plan attacking on the king side with so this knight on a5 should be played on knight c4, or if white wants to get an open file, it can open with b4. So knight a5 is playable, but we are not seeing much high games in this knight a4 variation. Okay, so d4, knight b7, knight d2, bishop b7, bishop c2 supporting this e4 pawn, rook e8, a4. So this is a good way to attacking the means asking black to close his bishop diagonal on b7. Now a4, he is keeping pressure on this pawn on b5. So bishop f8, bishop d3. Now see, this pawn is under attack. If you capture pawn on a4, black will be having an isolated pawn on a6, and that is I think more than enough for getting small any kind of advantage. Or if you push or anything, this knight on e4, g2 will have a good squares. He will push the pawn to d5, and he can play knight c4, knight e3, and maybe bishop g5, exchanging the bishop on f6, knight on f6, and he can sit this knight on f5 square. So so he have to defend this pawn on b5. So c6 is the only option. So now this bishop diagonal is closed. So b4. Here in this position, Anand have played b3 move many times, but now b4 is also good, simply in view of after capturing on the pawn on a5, is not allowing pawn to capture on cb5, so that he can play a move like d5. We'll see this variation. And if you capture with a into b5, his plan of breaking the center with c5 can also be prevented by the move b4. Okay, so after b4, knight b6, now forcing the pawn on a4 to be capturing. So if you move like a5, will be a mistake for white, because white really not getting any open files. See, after a5, black can counter with b4. The c5 break will be very strong. This a5 pawn later will be a weakness after eliminating this pawn on b4, and even this bishop on f8 and b7 both will have a good life. if you push pawn on a5. So a into b5 is forced to take a b5, rook into a8, queen into a8. Okay, here simply Anand is playing knight b3. He simply wants to play in a move like knight a5, maybe closing the bishop, the diagonal, the file on a, or he can even prevent the move like c5. Even if c5 comes, he can simply play d5. Now not activating the bishop on b7 or a8. So knight c4 and d into e5. If not d into e5, white can simply play a move like queen c2, then black will capture d into c4. We'll see this variation. If you play a move like queen c2, you can capture dc4, dc4 and d5. This knight is pretty solid, and back pawn on b4, and maybe this bishop on b7 is little bad, but he can compensate with this post of knight on c4. This is pretty good for black. Okay, so now if we play a move like e5, we'll say e5. Even white can simply play a move like knight e4. Knight e4 is also good. Bishop into e4, d into e4. Maybe he cannot capture queen into e4. Almost like c5 will come. If you capture maybe rook into e4, black can gain his pawn by capturing bishop into b4, but even good is he can play bishop c8, bishop f5 or bishop e6. So this position is good for black. Okay, so he cannot capture that, so knight c after knight c4. This was a novelty played by Magnus Carlsen and so on, and took some time and captured d into e5, knight into e5, knight into e5, rook into e5. Now black is pretty clear. He wants to open this e file and activate this bishop on b7. So the easy way is to play f3. Now see this pawn is firm, this upper pawn on f3. This rook this rook and bishop even after c5 is not that much efficient because of this solid farm structure of the pawns. So after f3, rook e8, bishop e3, bishop c8, bishop f2, bishop e6, knight d4, bishop d7, queen d2. Now queen d2 is also a good idea. He simply wants to don't want allow black to gain control here. Now he can play moves like queen b2, or even supporting this pawn on b4 with a after c5. He can simply move the knight and keep the weakness on d6. Also not allowing queen a2 and queen a2 or any doubling of the a file. Queen a4 can be met by knight b. Queen a4, he can play a move like queen c2, and rook a2 will be met by knight b3 and knight a5, or even moves like bishop b1 or even. So they are pretty good options. So after queen d2, rook queen b8, I think this move is just simply to support the pawn on b5 so that he can push c5, and he can push c5. Bishop f1. I don't want to open the things after c5 and c4. So after c5 he can play knight b3, then after c4 he can play back knight to d4 because of the bishop is not on d3. So bishop f1 is a good positional move. h3. Carlsen is just not able to find any good moves here, so played with h3. Rook a1, queen b7, rook a5, and d5. Here he played a very good move. Now white is forcing black is forcing white to conceive on the center. After 1 second. After e into d5, knight into d5, knight b3, bishop e6, knight c5, bishop into c5, bishop into c5, rook d8, rook a1, queen b8. No, it's threatening. Maybe he wants to play move queen g3, bishop into h3. So rook d1, not allowing this knight to move. Queen g3, bishop f2, queen e5, and attacking the c3 pawn. Maybe he will move this rook on a8, and he wants to play a move like b3 or rook a3 or rook a4. So c4, b into c4, bishop into c4, rook d7, supporting this rook on d7 so that he can move this knight. And now I think Anand feels this position is pretty hard to win from here with Carlsen, so he captured bishop into d5. So now position is very much equal, because no even white or black cannot win from here because of this opposite color bishops. So rook into e5, queen moves, and queen into queen, rook into rook d2, bishop c5. I think they both can simply agree a draw in this position. Okay, so this is a good game played by Anand and Magnus Carlsen. Hope better games played between these two men in the World Championship. I'll just keep analyzing these videos and post more videos on this channel. Hope you enjoy this game. See you in the next video. Bye.